Hi, this is Skip Spratt from Saxshed.com. I'm pleased to introduce this new interview with the one and only Andy Snitzer. Most of you are probably familiar with Andy's body of work with artists such as the Rolling Stones, Billy Joel, Sting, and a long association with Paul Simon, not to mention a host of others. Andy has been a first call studio musician in New York City for a number of years. He hails from Philadelphia, in the same area that I now live. I was happy to introduce, or not to introduce, but interview Andy back in 2000 when I first began writing for Saxophone Journal. Here's the issue from September, October of 2000, exactly 20 years ago. And Andy was nice enough to be my first subject for an interview in print. So I really hope that you enjoy this interview with Andy from 2020. He's got a new recording coming out, CD, if you will, and other exciting things to talk about. So enjoy. Hey, Andy, how you doing?
Hey, Skip.
Thanks for meeting me this morning.
All right. Let me get my act together here. I'm going to do gallery view. Very nice.
Sure. So
Cool.
so we can share this, I'm recording. So I just want to give you the heads up on that.
All right. I'll be on my best behavior.
Oh, I'm sure you will. First of all, this came about because I've been very much enjoying your last, I think it's 3 Thursdays, at least I caught 3 Thursdays.
That's been great so
Uh,
far.
yeah, and why don't you tell anybody who's listening a little bit about, well, first I should say this is going to be on saxshed.com and it'll be, posted on social media so you can help promote your new album. But
Great.
in addition to that, you've been promoting your newest CD and, CD, I guess. That's a,
There
no,
is a TV, but who knows, right?
yeah. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about what's cooking and coming out on the 23rd?
So my new album, Higher, which is 10 new original compositions by me and produced by myself and LMLA, who I know from Paul Simon's band, and great pianist and Berkeley professor. And let's see, I mean, it's, I've got a host of incredible, musicians involved in the project. And it's, I would say compared to my recent works, it's like maybe more like decidedly like pop music. And I mean, I say that from a broad overview point of view. There's plenty of artistic stuff within there, but it's less moody than Traveler, for instance, and the rhythm, and it's kind of more decidedly like optimistic and more rooted in kind of like in an overall way in American pop music and R&B. But it's me, so it's eclectic. Even though there's like the tunes will be like hook oriented and groove oriented, there's lots of high test saxophone playing going on in there, and I can't resist the opportunity to sneak outside the harmony, or like add little touches of the type that indicate that it's me. But I'm excited about it. After you stare at something for 100,000 hours, it's hard to know what you think of it. Right? It's hard to know what people will think of it. It's hard to know if it's good or bad. It's really hard to know anything. But hopefully, as time passes, I'll be able to review it with some distance. And I know that the craft part from me and from all the people involved is at a very high level. So that I'm excited about. But hopefully my fans will enjoy it, and we'll see what happens over the next weeks and months. But
And judging from the reaction on the last few Thursdays when you were having special guests, Everett Harp among them, when you were giving us a sneak peek of a couple things, as well as your own playing, it seems like people are ready for this, and I think they can pre-order it even now. Correct?
they can. You can pre-order it through my website, and for this limited time, you get the physical CD. Which hopefully you can make some use of if your car is old enough. You have a legacy device, but you get the physical CD and the artwork, which is really beautiful, and also the downloadable link.
Yeah.
All for one. I feel like I'm on a game show. All for one low price. physical CD and the downloadable links, and that's through the pre-sale event, which goes until this coming Friday, which
Right.
is the official release of the record. So,
Awesome. Well, I'm going to just share my screen for a moment to just show people your website if they haven't been there recently, whatever, because I really didn't give you much of an introduction here. And I think most people who are familiar with saxshed.com are also familiar with you and your playing. But just going to share this for a moment. I had it up earlier. You really have. I was doing a little bit of homework before we got together today, just to see what I've been missing for the last 20 years since I last interviewed you.
oh
Uh,
my,
anyway, on Andy's site, when you go to his EPK, electronic press kit, you can find all this information. So here's his website, andysnitzer.com. Picture of his funky old Mark VI. The
love it.
poor lacquer has seen better days, but I think it's cool.
That Mark VI goes back to my University of Miami days. So that's the Salt Air,
Oh
and
yeah, did that to it?
I used to practice outside. Maybe not a great idea in
Uh,
Florida, but so the patina of that horn is unique, and I kind of dig it too. So if you're a fan of the shiny saxophone thing, maybe not so much your thing, but I really it's unique and individual, and I like it a lot, and it's a great horn. So
oh yeah, well, it sounds great when you play it, and I'm sure you'd sound good on a paper bag. But anyway, so you can click on the EPK, and I was checking out some of these scenes I didn't even realize was you, and I'm familiar with the tune "Waiting for a Star to Fall" from the '80s,
yeah,
and that killer '80s sax solo, and the kissing scene from Hitch, the Kevin James Will Smith or Will Smith Kevin James movie. But just to speak briefly on your, the highlights, or at least highlights other people might note, playing and performing and touring with the Rolling Stones, Paul Simon, Sting. And then was it only one tour with Billy Joel?
I did a tour with Billy Joel, so you're probably aware that a gentleman named Mark Rivera has had that gig for a really long time, and basically, Billy had not worked for a while. He was coming back to performance in 2013. In the period that he hadn't worked, Mark had gone with Ringo Starr, and anyway, so Billy was going to work again, and Mark had a conflict, and I knew Carl Fisher from Paul Simon, from Billy Joel's band pretty well. I knew some of the people on the production side, and that was the entree into that gig. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, point being, when Mark no longer had a conflict, and Billy was going to work again, he came back and took his job back. So,
Okay.
and listen, I had a fantastic time. I would never want to take anyone else's job in a million years, but that I'm thrilled that I got to do that gig, and if I ever got to do it again for any good reason that didn't harm Mark in any way, I'd love to do it. It was fantastic fun.
Yeah,
So,
well, there's a clip on here on Eddie. Oh, I'm sharing my screen, so I got to get away from it. But if anybody wants to watch a great clip, this has made the rounds on social media recently again. But New York State of Mind from Dublin. It looks like a cell phone video somebody did. Uh,
it's a YouTube video that someone did from the audience, but
Yeah, it was I mean, it's an awesome performance on Billy's part, on your part, and it's great. You had the most understated walk back to a stool I've ever seen.
I'm, 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 for better or worse, I'm kind of a low key guy, so that's what you're witnessing there.
I'll let people find that one for themselves, but
Cool.
it's great. You're featured throughout. You're featured at the end. You have a little comedic thing going back and forth with you and Billy, but the performance is so killer, and like I said, the walk back to the stool was just very simple and understated.
Thank you. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that one, because I would actually say, in a way, like that solo, which I kind of like. It's obviously more or less a composed solo, which I think is always appropriate for those kind of gigs and those kind of moments, right? Like I don't, whether it's Paul Simon or Billy Joel, I'm not going out there and improvising those moments each night, right? Like
Yeah.
it's pop music. It's a segment that 8 bars or what have you that features the saxophone, and it really needs to be a like highly coherent statement that supports the song and makes the saxophone solo statement, but I don't think it should be subject to like randomness and good nights or bad nights in terms of your compositional element. So I came up with that solo and in practicing for the gig, and in a way I would say like that's kind of a best case expression of me because it's pop music, right? Like it's a pop rock saxophone solo performance, but if you're a harmony person, you can hear that I'm detailing all the harmony in kind of a more sophisticated way, and it's melodic, but there's still little touches throughout that indicate that I'm a harmony guy, and I love the combination of all those things, right? Like a rock and pop ethic, but the sophisticated underpinnings of harmonic knowledge within the melodicism. So that I'm really kind of proud of that particular solo. So thanks for bringing that up.
Sure, yeah, and I think if for anybody who's not familiar, I find it hard to believe they're not familiar with your playing. But if anybody is not, that's a crystal clear moment of who Andy Snitzer is, as far as I'm concerned.
We agree on that. So.
And speaking of Mark, I just got to meet him in the last couple of years. We've done a handful of jobs with a sort of Sinatra tribute singer named Michael Martocci.
I see.
And he would feature Mark, and it was one of my few gigs since COVID was actually doing a benefit with Mark for the Count Basie Theater.
Wonderful.
Anyway, so I had never met him before, but I knew he was with Billy Joel for a long time, and then I know this clip of yours, and I was just trying to figure out how that.
Yeah, a lot of people are curious about it, and that's really, I just came in kind of, at the last minute to negotiate that little rub right between the schedules, and I'm like thrilled that I got to do it. So
yeah, I mean, if you're gonna play with a pop icon on saxophone, there's not too many gigs that feature the saxophone more prominently than Billy Joel's.
a lot of good moments in that book. So
well, I'm gonna self-indulge for a moment. So
yeah.
you were the first interview I ever did.
Amazing.
For Saxophone Journal. So this is exactly 20 years ago. It's September, October. And this is my only copy. You can see it's a little weathered. But anyway, they, I basically had reached out to you and through mutual friends, I guess it was.
Yeah.
Might have been Chico Huff or somebody like that.
Yeah, Chico, great guy.
Yeah. And, you've worked with the Posmentier brothers, and that's what I've been doing on and off for a number of years. Not so many jazz gigs, but some jazz gigs, but a lot of, commercial gigs, if you will, or club dates, casuals, cheap gigs, whatever you want to call it. What do they call it?
Whatever you call it.
Outside dates, yeah. So I think the only time you and I have been in the same room was it Rodef Shalom? Is that the name of the one in Center City, Philly? I was playing a bar or bat mitzvah, and after the gig was over, somebody said, "Did you say hi to Andy?" I said, "Andy who?" And he said, "You just say hi to Andy Snitzer." And I said, "I didn't know he was here." And so I'm sure you didn't recognize me, and my name wouldn't have been mentioned. And whether you remembered the interview or not, this was still big.
Well, I certainly remember the interview. That was just one of those things we passed in the night, kind of.
So once again, we're passing in the night or in the morning anyway. But it's great to connect with you here to let the people know what you've got cooking. So it comes out officially on Friday.
Officially on Friday, and I'm I've kind of fallen into this weekly live stream event, which is kind of organically formulating itself. And we had Everett on last week. Everett Harp, that was great, and I'm in the works with some other high-profile special guests that I think will be interesting to saxophone players and fans of the genre alike. And I'm going to kind of the week coming up is right before the album release, so I think next week's live stream is going to be about sneak peeks of the record and maybe I'll play a couple songs from the record or what have you. But it's going to feature some. A couple live performances from me at the start and then some other content, but in any event, so the album comes out on the 23rd and on the 22nd this week coming up, I'll be featuring a lot of snippets and clips from the album and a discussion of the album and awesome. Wherever else the thing winds its way during the hour and a half.
Yeah. Oh, it's been an absolute treasure, if you will, because we don't get to talk shop, with each other that much unless it's virtually these days, and I love being a fly on the wall and listening to you at Everett talk, and the other guy you had um, you know uh, several other guests as well, and to hear how the recording came together. It's very enlightening for other people to.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I think going forward, I'm kind of identifying this idea of getting saxophone guests to come in the space, and so that it would be kind of a music thing, but also be a saxophone thing.
Yeah,
Like I guess Everett and I ended up talking a lot about saxophone playing and pragmatic and existential discussions of doing that, and I think that might be fun to do with other players, and I certainly want to have Everett back again and get him to actually take his horn out.
yeah,
There's, as you know from doing this, there's these platforms are all kind of finding their way, and there's some technical hurdles to accomplish when if you're going to play together or you're going to have various people playing in their own spaces and what have you. But I think saxophone players around the world would certainly enjoy that, right? Like if I'm
oh, absolutely.
casual hang with a peer of mine and we're kind of just both playing and like maybe not just acoustically in the room or but demonstrating things and talking about the instrument and what have you, comparing our philosophies. So that's where I think that's headed.
Yeah, and on a personal note, it's fascinating to me that, like, when you had David Mann on, who is, no pun intended, instrumental in the
Yeah,
production of your album, but you, Everett Harp, David Mann, just those are just three players that, first of all, when I hear them, I recognize they're playing right away, and also I hold you guys in the highest regard that I can among my peers in the saxophone community. And I only say peers, I don't pretend to be at the same level, but as far as age group and interest,
right.
you guys are at the top of my list, and I'm not just giving you lip service. I mean, I genuinely mean that.
I
So
appreciate.
yeah, anyway, the new album Higher comes out on the 23rd.
Yeah,
22nd you'll be live on your, it's actually YouTube live, correct?
yeah. Well, it streams on YouTube and Facebook and I think Instagram simultaneously. I've got a gentleman from Singapore who's kind of behind the curtain making all that happen. So it streams out on several platforms and then it's available on YouTube after the fact if you'd like to watch it.
Yeah, that would be great.
But
So how can people find it easily on Thursday? Is it 9 o'clock? Is that what?
Thursdays at 9 o'clock. If you go to my YouTube channel, Andy Snitzer Music at YouTube, there'll always be a link to the upcoming show. And
Right.
then I think also on Facebook, it'll get posted, closer to the time and Instagram. So I think if you go visit those places or do a general Google search, it should come up pretty easily.
Yeah.
That's my hope at least. So I did want to also mention the single is running a couple times a day on XM Sirius Watercolors. If anybody out there is listens to that station or wants to hear the single, that's the way that you can hear it. And on the 23rd, it'll be available on Spotify and all those streaming platforms. So it's kind of I, I I certainly hope that people want to own it, but if they just want to stream it, that'll be very easy to do starting on October 24th, I guess. So
Yeah, well, I saw the package for download and is extremely affordable. And anybody who has the 11.99, I encourage them to
thank you.
order it now.
I mean, it's not. I like having like if someone's done a really nice job with the artwork, and personally, I like being able to experience that and see who played on the record. And we have that. And that's kind of an old school thing, I guess, in a way. I would also argue it's satisfying, even if you're someone that's more of a streaming person and is coming to music that way. If you're younger, what have you, the whole artwork experience is kind of a cool
It
experience.
is absolutely, and well, I do appreciate you being here with us this morning. I hope to cross paths with you in person, maybe when we get past all this craziness.
Yes,
I'm supposed to be at Berks with Everett Harp and this killer band. They do this Berks Big Band Festival, and I am
awesome.
one of about three local players who are there to fill out the band. But the section is Eric Marienthal's playing lead alto, Everett's playing. Listen, I'm second alto is I think Everett. Andrew News playing tenor. And who else am I forgetting? Oh, Gerald Albright. Yeah, he's playing.
Well,
Yeah, that's a name to forget, right? Anyway, I'm playing Barry.
great. I see it in the background there. Fantastic. You're already
Oh,
shedding.
yeah. Well, yeah. Well, the mouthpiece is not on it. But anyway, uh, trying to save that cork.
Yeah,
Um,
of course.
anyway, are you going to be in Berks?
So it's supposed to be there with Chris Bodie at the
Okay,
moment.
yeah,
I think if the whole thing is, if we're fortunate enough to have all those things come off right as we get into the spring and summer next
yeah.
year, we'll certainly all hope that that happens. I'd expect that I'll be able to see you there.
Yeah, well, that was something we had all looked forward to back in the spring, and didn't happen. Hopefully, will happen in 2021, and I hope to see you someplace sometime soon.
Sounds good, Skip.
All right. Thanks again, Andy. It was great talking with you.
Pleasure. Great to see you.
All right, bye bye.
Take care. Bye.